Currently, South Africa is under a coalition government known as the Government of National Unity, GNU. But here's a question we should think about. Did the voters really choose the government running the country? Because no single party achieved a clear electoral majority, no party could govern alone. While people voted for parties, they didn't vote on coalition arrangements or on how the government would be formed afterwards. Those choices emerged from negotiations among political leaders after the election. This begs the question, just how much say do voters have in South Africa's democracy? Democracy is generally seen as rule by the people, a term going back to ancient Greece, where demos means people and kratos means rule. But with the way things are set up politically in South Africa now, can we really say the people are in charge? From direct to representative democracy. The first known democracy emerged in ancient Athens, where only adult male citizens were required to participate directly in government. Citizens were selected at random for public roles, made laws, and faced penalties for non-participation. Power was exercised directly rather than delegated. This is a stark contrast to South Africa's current representative democracy. Here, citizens elect representatives to govern on their behalf. The idea is that these representatives should be accountable to voters. However, in reality, this setup has drifted political power away from the electorate. It's not simply that authority has been passed down, it's been concentrated. This shift has created a situation in which leaders feel more obligated to party elites and donors than to ordinary citizens. Political funding and the erosion of accountability. Looking at political funding makes South Africa's democracy even murkier. Approximately 2.2 billion rand in public funds has been allocated to political parties, yet public needs are often ignored. Political parties don't operate alone. They rely heavily on private donors, such as wealthy individuals and companies, whose interests may conflict with those of the average citizen. This means that political representation often aligns more closely with donor interests than with voters' actual preferences. For instance, despite widespread concerns about unemployment and border security, the African National Congress, ANC, continues to prioritize Pan-African policies. This continues even as South Africa struggles with high unemployment rates. The party with the most public funding has provided only minor improvements. ANC donors and policy alignment. Chancellor House and Batu Trust have been long-standing backers of the ANC. Batu Trust holds significant stakes in Tebe Investment Corporations, which is linked to Shell's operations in South Africa. During times of public and environmental outcry over Shell's exploration along the Wild Coast, key ANC figures backed the project. While this doesn't prove that policy was bought, it does reveal a pattern in which donor-related extractive interests align with government actions, even against public opinion. Bosasa and procurement capture. The Bosasa scandal serves as a clear example of donor-related governance issues. The Zondo Commission found that Bosasa funneled money and resources to ANC officials in exchange for lucrative government contracts, particularly in the correctional services sector. This undermined public procurement and accountability. Concentrated donor power. Research by groups such as My Vote Counts indicates that a small circle of wealthy donors provides a disproportionate share of funding to the ANC, notably from the energy and mining sectors. While this doesn't demonstrate vote buying, it encourages policies that favor resource extraction interests. Democratic Alliance, donor influence without scandal. The Democratic Alliance, DA, has not experienced many major corruption scandals, but donor influence remains strong. Under DA leadership, the City of Cape Town often approves luxury private developments while postponing affordable housing in key urban areas. Courts have rebuked the city for failing to meet its housing obligations, thereby exacerbating spatial inequality. This behavior shows a preference for property developers and business elites over working-class folk. Major corporate donors. Companies associated with billionaire Michiel Lacroix, such as Fynbos Capital and Fynbos Ekvietdate, rank among the DA's largest donors. Although demonstrating direct policy influence is difficult, the DA's focus on fiscal responsibility and business-friendly reforms aligns well with the priorities of these major donors. Additionally, contributions from corporations such as Naspers and various international foundations have shaped the DA's policy approaches and ideological stance. The Brenthurst Foundation. A striking development during the 2024 election was the Brenthurst Foundation's first disclosed gift to the Inkatha Freedom Party, IFP. This coincided with the IFP's participation in national government with the GNU, something unprecedented since 1994. This doesn't imply a direct cause and effect relationship. However, it demonstrates how elite funding ties, policy institutions, and political access converge in coalition configurations. The Brenthurst Foundation, connected to the Oppenheimer Business Network, isn't a neutral player. It serves as an institution that shapes policy, promotes market-driven reform, and supports elite-led development models. A similar trend is evident in Botswana, where Brenthurst supported opposition leader Duma Boko before he became president. In both South Africa and Botswana, political actors aligned with Brenthurst thinking gained remarkable access to executive roles. This doesn't mean these foundations dictate governments. Still, it clearly shows how political success in Southern Africa increasingly flows through elite networks that provide funding, legitimacy, policy shaping, and a global reputation, often outside direct voter influence. Democracy without power. South Africa's democracy operates in such a way that voters choose parties rather than governments or policies. Plus, they lack the means to hold underperformers accountable until the next election. For citizens to regain true power, we need electoral reform. Voters should not just pick their representatives, they must be able to demand accountability and remove those who don't deliver. Without this ability, democracy becomes more procedural than real, a cycle of elections devoid of actual popular authority. And that's not what freedom looks like. True freedom is having power.